All right, so there might be a few more folks joining via Zoom or tuning into the stream, but I will start off today just by introducing myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Yao Yao. I'm a museum educator for the Seattle Asian Art Museum at SAM. Thanks so much for joining us for this virtual family festival. Let's get moving. For the art activity today, you'll need some of these materials listed here in case you or a grown-up want to kind of gather these supplies during the first half of the program in order to have them for the art activity in the second half. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that SAM is on Indigenous land, the traditional homelands of the Duwamish people and the customary territories of the Suquamish and Muckleshoot peoples. It's a cultural education institution. We honor our ongoing connection to these communities past, present, and future. We also acknowledge the urban native peoples from many nations who call Seattle their home. A little bit about this event. Family festivals at the Seattle Asian Art Museum connect families with performances, art activities, and other programming related to SAM's Asian art collection. Now that the Seattle Asian Art Museum is open again, families can make art and learn more about Asian art through our program today, as well as from our partners at home. And then they can check out artwork in person at the museum. Today is all about ways that you use your body to move. We will watch a dance performance together from our community partner, look at art, and make artwork together. And the last thing I'll say is the program is in a webinar format, which means we can't see or hear you, but it would be great to hear from you in your reactions. So you can send an emoji, you can drop questions and you have in the chat, and then we'll be able to respond to them on the stream. So the first thing we're going to be doing is watching a performance by our community partner, Hongda Dance Academy. If you've been to one of our Lunar New Year celebrations in the past, either downtown or at the Asian Art Museum, you may have seen their performers dance together. Hongda Dance Academy is the first professional Chinese dance school established in the Pacific Northwest. Students at the academy frequently participate in community events, international art festivals, and parades in the Puget Sound area, demonstrating the beauty of Chinese dance and culture to local audiences. So the performance we are about to watch is called Hai Zhi Ge, or Song of the Ocean. And here is the video now. Thank you so much to our partners at Hangda Dance Academy for sharing that amazing video. And we're so looking forward to future performances at the Asian Art Museum, hopefully with the next Lunar New Year. So next, we are going to be doing an activity with our hands. So, make sure your hands are free to kind of do some poses together. We're going to be learning about some of the poses and gestures that you can find on works of art at the Seattle Asian Art Museum. Some of the sculptures at the museum come from Buddhism, which is a religion practiced in many places in Asia and around the world. In Buddhism, a mudra is a gesture or pose of the hands and fingers that have unique meanings. So we're going to be looking at some of the mudras found in a few sculptures that you can see here. And then later on, you might be able to visit the Seattle Asian Art Museum and see these sculptures in person. So this first sculpture we're going to look at is from Tibet. The figure in the artwork is showing us the earth touching mudra, which has a meaning of grounding and supporting. And now we can try it out for ourselves. So first, you'll want to try to cross one or both of your legs in any sort of seated position, and that can be on the floor or on a chair. And then you'll have your left hand point towards the earth, and then put your right hand facing up towards you. You can see in the image and illustration sort of the direction of the hands and fingers there. Now hold the pose for a moment and think about, how does that feel? All right. The next sculpture we'll look at comes from India. This figure is showing us the meditation mudra, which has the meaning of thinking or meditating. So let's try this one together. You'll place your right hand over your left hand and touch your thumbs together. You can see in the illustration to the left, or if you look closely at the sculpture, you'll see that that is sort of how they have their hands as well. And now let's try a moment of meditation. Take a deep breath in, hold for a moment, then out through your nose or mouth. Maybe you can think about how that feels compared to the earth touching mudra from before. And the third pose we're going to be doing is based on a sculpture that also comes from India. This figure is showing us the teaching mudra, which has a meaning of discussion, growth, or awakening. So let's try it together. First, you'll touch your index fingers and thumbs together on your hands like this, sort of curving the rest of your fingers towards each other. And then you'll turn your right hand so that your right pinky is close to you. It could be close to your chest, maybe close to your face. And you can sort of hold it a little bit closer to you than your left hand. As you can see, sort of the overlap is similar to the illustration on the left. Or you can look sort of at the sculpture. The figure's fingers on the right hand are a little bit more curved, and that works as well. And you can think about, how does this feel, especially compared to the other two mudras? Let's hold it for a moment. All right, so those are just 3 of the many gestures and poses that you'll find at sculptures at the Seattle Asian Art Museum. And think about, what pose did you like the most? Maybe what meaning is most special to you? If you're with a grown-up or a friend, you can share with them which one you like the best. Yes, you can share with them 1, 2, or 3. Which one did you like the best out of the different poses? All right, so thanks so much for moving through those mudras with me. Now we'll be making some art of our own connected to gesture and movement with our teaching artist, Janet. So here are a list of materials that you will need for this activity. You'll need a glue stick or tape, Second, use your copy paper, a brown paper bag, scrap paper like old greeting cards, maps, or magazines, bits of heavier paper like cardboard, cardstock, or file folders, and something to draw with. So pencil, an eraser, markers, crayons, and finally scissors. And so I will now switch it over to Janet.
Hi there. Thank you, Yao Yao. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Janet Fagan, and I am a teaching artist for the Seattle Art Museum and a practicing painter and printmaker in Seattle. And you just explored a few pieces from the Seattle Asian Art Museum collection that highlighted stillness and using gestures of the hands within stillness. And now we're going to look at gestures again, but with movement. So how do artists create movement in their work? There's a couple of different things that artists typically think about to create action or energy or movement in their artwork. And I'm going to show you those things today, and then we're going to try them out, making some artwork together. So first of all, before we get started on actually making art together, I just want to tell you what the things are that we're going to be focusing on. So the tools that artists use to create energy or movement. The first one we're going to focus on, I'm going to have you try. So it's really easy to feel movement in your body when you compare it to stillness. So in those meditative poses that you saw the sculptures were in just a moment ago, the bodies of the figures were upright. So if you are sitting upright, so go ahead and do that now. Just sit nice and tall and straight. And if you have an art friend with you, ask them to give you a gentle nudge and see how easy it is to move you just by sort of pushing on one of your shoulders gently. If you don't, if you're by yourself, like I am, just kind of imagine, do you feel stable? Do you think it would be hard or easy for someone to tip you over? So just try that. I'm imagining to myself, I feel really solid sitting up straight and tall. And if someone were to bump into me from the side, I don't think I would move very much. I think I would stay pretty upright. So that's a very stable pose. If we want to lean or create a diagonal with our body, go ahead and try that. And now have your art buddy kind of gently push on you and see how easy it is to hold this line, this diagonal. It's a lot more energetic. I feel like I would tip over very, very easily if someone were to push me on my shoulder. And that's because when you're on a slant or on a diagonal, you're creating a sense of movement because your body wants to go ahead and tip all the way over. And that is knowledge that artists use when they want to intentionally create movement in their artwork. They're going to use diagonals or slants to create energy or movement in their artwork. So that's the first thing that we're going to remember, using diagonals when you create. The second thing that artists do to create movement is to create rhythm. And rhythm is created with repetition. So you might think about music and clapping. Thinking maybe back to the dancing that we saw earlier, when you create rhythm with sound, one beat after another beat, right? One beat following another beat. And that creates energy or movement that we can hear. When you want to create movement with your artwork visually, you can do the same exact thing, but with marks. So you can create repetition just like a beat, but with what you put on your paper or your painting or even your sculpture. So I'm going to show you some examples. We are going to switch the camera now so that you can see my hands, and I'm going to show you some artwork, and we're going to make a little art together. So this first one is using the hands to create a gesture like we were talking about with the mudras, but creating the energy of movement by adding these slanted lines here within the gesture. So the way that the wrists are slanting away from each other, and then the fingers are coming back together, slanting, and then the repetition of each of the fingers. And this was created just with copy paper from my printer that I messed up on one side. And so here's the mess up side, and I just used it to create this interesting gray hand that I put my hand on the paper and I traced it and then I cut it out. And then I used the clean side of the copy paper as the other hand. And we'll walk through that in a second. And I want to show you another example of using movement. And with this one, get that lined up. With this one, you can see that there's repetition, right? With the butterflies, 1, 2, 3, and there's repetition with the grasses. So we were creating movement by showing rhythm through repetition. And then also, again, we have diagonals going through the artwork and guiding our eye to the left and also to the right. So when you look at this collage, it's easy to imagine that the butterflies are actually moving, the grass is actually blowing. So these are the tricks that artists use all the time in different ways to create energy or movement in their artwork. All right, so now let's try this together, and I'm just gonna show you a couple of ways that you can move forward. First, I'm gonna show you how I made the butterflies for that second piece. I like to work with materials that I just have around the house because it's fun to reuse things and make beautiful things out of recycled materials. So this was actually a greeting card that someone gave me a long time ago and I had saved, and I just figured, okay, well, you know what? I can turn this into artwork now. So I drew a butterfly on it and just cut out a shape that I could use to trace so that I could repeat that butterfly in my artwork. Okay, and so I did that a couple of times because I also wanted to take that same butterfly and glue it down. So we're gonna take that idea to get started. So I have a greeting card here that I'm going to cut up. This is an old greeting card that somebody gave me that I'm going to turn into art. I'm also going to use part of a newspaper. I have newspaper just hanging around. Some brown paper bag. I just cut a grocery bag up, and I like how this creates like a tone that I can use. And then finally, I have an old calendar from like 2018 that was hanging out, and I'm gonna use the calendar too. So I think for my background, I'm gonna use this big piece of newspaper to get started. And I'm gonna cut it down just a little bit. So I'm just gonna take my scissors, cut it just a little bit smaller. And I have a piece of cardstock that has some color to it, and I'm going to put that on the background. So I like to have that kind of that red border, and that's going to be my start. But the next thing I want to do is I want to make a motif or an image that I can recreate. So I'm going to go back to this greeting card, and I'm going to you can take a marker or a pen or a pencil, anything you want that makes a mark. And I'm thinking, what do I want to show moving this time? I did a butterfly last time, so I think I'm going to do a bird this time. And I'm not going to worry about making my bird perfect. I'm just going to draw a little bird with some wings that can be kind of flying through the sky. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it out. And this is what I'm going to use to trace a few birds so that I can show some energy using repetition, creating the movement of the bird through the sky. So I'm just going to quickly cut this out. And I'm not even sticking to my outline very closely, because when you cut, you can change your mind and you can kind of say, oh, you know what? I think that I'm going to draw with my scissors as I cut. And so I'm changing the shapes of the wings just a little bit as I go. I'm making the body just a little bit different. So this is my little bird. Oops, stuck to my finger. Okay, so now I'm going to go to one of those calendar pages. And I'm just going to put the bird down and I'm going to trace it 3 times. I'm going to flip it over and trace on the back side so that when I cut it out, my tracing doesn't show on the pretty side. Dun, dun, dun. And again, not worrying about being perfect. And one of the things you can do when you want to cut out several of something is you can fold the paper to give you more than one layer. And so I think I can get 4 birds out of this by folding it once and then twice. So do you see how I do that? I drew the bird up in the right-hand corner of the page. Then I folded the page 1 time, then I folded it again. So now when I cut out the bird, and again, I'm going to make little adjustments as I cut to make the image change a little bit if I want to. You don't have to stick exactly to my traced lines. Just kind of freely cutting. Add a little bigger beak. Cut around. Doo -doo -doo, doo -doo -doo. Almost there. Okay, so now I've got 4 birds and I'm going to position them on my collage. I'm not gluing anything down yet because I'm still kind of playing with placement and orientation, and I'm repeating the birds to create that energy that we've been talking about, or movement. So I'm going to go like so. Okay, yeah, so I'm kind of liking this. So I think I might go ahead and glue them down at this point. But before I do that, I'm going to maybe even do that later, because before we run out of time, I want to show you one other thing that you can do to create movement that's really fun. So I'm going to take a piece of secondhand paper here, and I'm going to go back to one of my markers. And do you remember the teaching gesture that Yao Yao showed us? So it involved 2 hands, but the hands were basically doing something that a gesture that we're probably all familiar with. It looks kind of like an okay sign. So you could make this gesture, or you could just spread your hands out. I'm going to do the okay sign because I think it's kind of cool. And I'm going to take a green marker just because I like green. And I'm going to place my hand on the paper in the mudra, or the gesture, and I'm getting a slant in my wrist, like in the demo I showed you, and a slant going back the other way. And then I'm just going to trace my hand to capture this. And again, not worrying about perfection. I am going to get the marker on my fingers, and I don't really mind that either because it'll come off with soap and water. But here I go all the way around over my watch, make a little bump. And then I'm going to capture the window in between my thumb and forefinger. And then instead of picking up my hand, I'm going to move it just a little bit, okay? And I'm going to take a different color and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm using those ideas of repetition and diagonals to create just a fun design using a mudra or a hand gesture. Okay, so now I've got 2. I'm going to do 1 more. Maybe this will give you some ideas. You can also create these gestures or these tracings on another sheet of paper and cut them out and use them as part of your collage. Okay, So this starts to look like you've got some movement in your hand. And then from here, you can do anything you want with it. You can start to put a background in, or you can collage, anything you want to do as an artist to liven this up. So I think that's all the time we have today to make art together, but thank you so much for being here and for trying these things. I hope you have a blast creating and making lots of paintings, drawings, or even sculptures using movement. Have a great day and stay cool.
Janet, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful activity. And I do just want to echo, thanks for everyone for tuning in, either on Zoom or on one of the streams. We really appreciate, being able to, for you to join us and explore movement in different artworks at the Asian Art Museum. So we will just, hang on for another minute or two to see if anyone has any questions. But that is the conclusion of our program today. So thank you all so much for tuning in.